Afternoon, everybody. I'm going to share my screen immediately and start a PowerPoint presentation. And I would like to thank Saskia right away for helping me to put this PowerPoint presentation together. And slideshow from the beginning. I'm hoping to be as informative as I can for the time available this afternoon, but I would like to say that it's not my role, as I see it, to unduly promote either music notation editor programs in general or any one music notation editor program in particular. I'm going to commence immediately with a demonstration using the program called MuseScore. And I was actually originally going to start off with a program called Noteworthy Composer, which is the program I've used for many, many years, well, 20 odd years. But in preparing for this presentation, I've discovered that that Noteworthy Composer is, I think, showing its age. So I've moved over to a more modern program called MuseScore. After the demonstration, I will discuss likely users of music notation editor programs and the attributes of them relevant to those likely users. Then look at three commonly used music notation editor programs, and followed that by questions. So I'm now going to minimize this PowerPoint presentation and open MuseScore. And I need to re-share the screen. Share. And MuseScore is over here. And I'm hoping that that now appears on your screen. Is that showing up on yours, Greg?
Yeah, I can see it, John.
Oh, good, thank you, thank you. So here we are starting off the program MuseScore. And top left-hand corner here of this Start Center window, you can see the button for Create New Score. And the title, O Sole Mio. Composer, or I should say demonstration. Demonstration. Composer, Eduardo di Capua, 1898. Next. The score is in treble clef. Next. And the key signature is G major. And the tempo, 120 for this song is far too fast. It's back to 65. Next. Time signature, 2 beats per bar, quarter note beats. And for the full score, there are 35 bars. I'm not going to enter the full score today, but for the purpose of the exercise, I'm showing 35 here. Finish. Right, now we're ready to enter the score. And I've discovered with MuseScore that the most efficient way to enter a score is to do it in 3 stages. The first stage is the entry of notes. The second stage is the entry of all the various qualifications to those notes, such as slurs, ties, tidying up of beams, grace notes, etc., repeats, and so on. And then the third stage is the entry of the lyrics for the song. So you should have received a link to the full score for this song in both PDF and MuseScore formats. And if you've been able to print out the score, you will see that the first item in the first bar is a quaver rest. And we're showing a minim rest here. If one simply presses number 5 on one's keyboard, that's broken into 2 crotchet rests, and then with the first one selected. And if one then presses number 4, that's broken into 2 quaver rests. So that's given us our first item. Now we need to go into note entry mode, and to do that, simply press letter N on your keyboard. And you can see that letter N in the toolbar here is illuminated. That's the other way of starting off note entry. And we've already got a quaver selected in the toolbar here. The first note is a D. D, C, B. And with MuseScore, it's very obliging. It moves you on to the next bar as soon as you've completed the 2 bars of the previous bar. We're now, for bar 2, we have 2 crotchets. So we need to go up to the toolbar here and select the correct duration of crotchet. A and G, A, G. Back to quavers, G, A, B, G. G, A, B, G. Bar 4, back to crotchets again, F and E, F, E. Bar 5, quavers, E, F, G, A, E, F, G, A. Bar 6, the first 2, 4, 5, 6, the first 2 notes are still quavers, F and E. And now a crotchet, E, and bar 7, quavers again, all 4 quavers, E, F, G, A, E, F, G, A. And the first 2 notes of bar 8 are also quavers, E and D, E, D. Now crotchet, D. And the last note I'm going to enter is a quaver D, first note of bar 9. Okay, so that completes the notes entry, and that's as far as I'm proposing to go today. That completes the first stage. So we need to leave note entry simply by pressing the letter N on the keyboard. And I'm now going to go back to the beginning and enter, first of all, an open repeat, a start repeat. So I've moved to a menu, a sub-menu here called Repeats and Jumps at the left-hand side. And there's a button here called Start Repeat. Okay, and while I'm on this Repeats menu, I'll enter also the end repeat. So to do that, I'm selecting the bar line after the 9th bar, and I can now go and click on End Repeat. So while I'm here, we've got all of these empty bars trailing at the end of the song, which for demonstration purposes are just cluttering up the screen. And it's very easy to delete them. All we need to do is go to Tools, Remove Empty Trailing Bars, and they're all gone. Okay, coming back to the beginning again here, we've got a dynamic. So I'm finished with the Repeats and Jumps menu, and there is a Dynamics menu here, which I'm opening, and we have a Mezzo Forte to enter here. There we are. My wife and I have been having a debate as to where the dynamic indication should go, whether it should be above the stave or below. I think for a song, it's convenient to have it above the stave so that it doesn't clash with the lyrics. So I'm left clicking on it and simply pressing the up arrow on the keyboard. And that takes it up above the stave. Right, now we can enter into the, slurs and ties. To enter a slur, one has to select a group of notes. And to do that, one simply selects the first note with a left click, hold down the Shift key and press the last note. And that's selected that group of notes. To enter a slur, simply press letter S. Okay. The next group of notes to be edited are in bar 3. I'm selecting the first note, holding down the Shift key, pressing the last note. And I've now finished with this Dynamics menu here, so I'm going to close that and open something called Beam Properties down the bottom here, bottom left-hand corner. And there's a button here called Beam Middle. So that's got that beamed, tidied up, and all 4 notes are slurred together. Simply press letter S and they're slurred together. The next bit of editing to do is the last note in bar 4, which is tied to the first note of bar 5. Select that note. There's a button here in the toolbar called Tie. There we are. And that's got that tied. We need to then tidy up this beam. Select the first note, hold down the Shift key, press the last note, and beam the middle. This button here, bottom left-hand corner. And the last 3 notes are slurred together. Select the first, hold down the Shift key, press the last, press letter S. There's a slur on the first 2 notes of bar 6. Select the first, hold down the Shift key, press the second, press letter S. And a tie from the last note of this bar to the first note of bar 7. Tie. Bar 7, it also needs to be tidied up. Select the first, hold down the Shift key, press the last, and beam the middle. And once again, we have a slur on the last 3 notes. So select the first, hold down the Shift key, press the last, press letter S. Okay. The first 2 notes of bar 8 are slurred together. Select the first, hold down the Shift key, press the second, press letter S. And a tie from the last note of bar 8 to the first of bar 9. Tie. Okay, I think that completes stage 2 of the entry of the score as far as this demonstration is going. So stage 3 is entry of the lyrics. And to do that, one selects the first note to which a lyric syllable will be attached, and then press Control L. Okay, and we're now ready to enter the lyrics. And for the first 3 bars of this song, each word is a lyric syllable in itself. So straightforward, just simply press the space bar after each word. When I space first space saw space you space with space your space smile space so. And here's the first little qualification coming in. The word tender is split into 2 syllables. That's simply done by entering a hyphen between the first and the second syllable. T-E-N hyphen D-E-R. Space. Now, this is where one has to be particularly careful with lyrics entry with MuseScore, because with MuseScore, each lyric syllable has to be attached to the correct note to which it belongs. If you make a mistake while entering the lyrics, I found that it's impossible to edit and correct that mistake within the length of the lyric line. You have to delete all the way back to the point at which you've made a mistake. So it's best to concentrate and make sure that you're entering the lyric syllables at the note at which to which it belongs. So to do that, I need to move this along 1, and it's just simply a matter of entering underscore. So press the Shift key down and underscore. Okay, that's got it aligned correctly. And I think that the musical term that's used for that is called elision, where a lyric syllable is spread over more than 1 note. My heart was. My space, H-E-A-R-T, space was space C-A-P hyphen T-U-R-E-D space. And we're not aligned correctly now, so I've got to enter in Shift underscore, and we're still not aligned correctly, so I've got to do that again. Shift underscore. Okay. Now we're in business. I've missed out a comma after the word captured, but I'll skip that for the time being, I think. My soul surrendered. My space S-O-U-L space S-U-R hyphen R-E-N hyphen D-E-R-E-D space. And we need to move the entry point for lyrics along, not just once, but twice. Okay, that completes stage 3. So I suppose you could say that stage 4 in the entry of a score is the playback and review. So I'm going to play back with the default instrument initially. And if there is a note that I've incorrectly placed, there's a good chance that your ear will pick it up, I've discovered. So hopefully I haven't made a mistake, but we'll soon see. To move back to the beginning, there's a button here called Rewind to Start Position, and I'm now going to play back. So I'm stopping it at that point. Before leaving this demonstration, there are a couple of things that I want to show you. Firstly, I'll show you how to change the font and the size of the font for the lyrics, or for any other text for that matter. But while I'm doing that, you, the participants in this presentation this afternoon, might like to think about an instrument that you would like to hear the playback used for. I'll ask you after showing you this little demonstration here, showing the change of the font. One simply right-clicks on the first item in the font, and then in the drop-down menu here, there's something called Select, and in the sub-menu, all similar elements in the same stave. Okay, so that's selected all of the lyric syllables. And top left-hand corner here, there's an item called View, Inspector. I think we more commonly know the term inspector as being properties, but I think that, well, they've called it inspector here. And there's a section in inspector called text. And in the drop-down menu here, there's a whole series of huge number of fonts you can choose. I've often used, over many years, Comic Sans MS. And one can change the size, maybe make it a little bit smaller, and that completes that. And if you're wanting to change the font for other text items, such as the title or the author, you just simply select them and then go back to View, Inspector, and do the same change to the font that you want to use. Okay. Does anybody have a preference for a playback instrument? You will have to unmute yourself, or Jim.
John, it's Greg here. What about guitar, please?
Oh, guitar. That's a new one. I haven't tried that.
Well,
Piano.
We'll give it a go. We'll give it a go. So to do that, one clicks the first item in the first bar and right-click, go to Stave Properties, change instrument, and key. Now, would it be a plucked string instrument? Classical guitar. Okay. And apply. Okay. And we've still got, let me just mention one thing before we launch into the actual playback. If, for instance, one chose a trumpet as the playback instrument, the program would automatically change the key signature from a G major to, I think it's an A major. And that is because I'm not a musician, I should hasten to say, but I believe that it's because an A major is best suited to the characteristics of the trumpet. But there's been no key change here, I think, unless it's down. There's an 8 appeared here below the clef, the treble clef, which suggests it's been brought down an octave, I think. Let's try playing it back. So playback. Terrific. Well, that worked very nicely. It also sounds very good with an oboe, but I'm not going to do that now. But it has, the stave has been transposed. You can see these notes have been moved up to correspond with the drop in the drop of the, there's an octave drop down here with the 8 below the treble clef, but then the notes have been lifted up. So I think that that is a good example for the transpose of a score. So I'm now going to minimize this use score window. We can come back to it later in questions if need be. And I'm going to reopen my PowerPoint presentation. Share. Okay, so you should have that window back again. And if I go to slideshow from current slide, that should occupy all of your screen now. So I'm leaving this window, this slide, and moving to the next slide. Who uses music notation editor programs? You may well ask, what is it? And I should say I'm not a musician and I don't play any musical instrument. So you may well ask, what is a non-musician doing tinkering with music notation editor programs? About 20, maybe even 25 years ago, I joined a choir in Canberra, and the choir master, Colin Slater, handed out music song scores to us, which usually contained both the lyrics and the music notation. Often the songs were unfamiliar to me, and I needed to hear the tune again before the next choir session. My answer was to use a music notation editor program called Noteworthy Composer, and I was able to enter the score into the computer and play it back using my chosen instrument and tempo. I learnt that doing that was actually quite an enjoyable exercise, and it gave one a new insight, I think, into the score and a certain feeling of ownership of the score. And also, what a wonderful way of gaining an education into musical notation. It's taught me a lot, and maybe the main thing it's taught me is that there's an awful lot I don't know. Perhaps you have a tune that keeps revolving in your mind. The answer to bringing that tune back to life is to use a music notation editor program. If you're an accomplished musician, I can't imagine that you would want to be without a music notation editor program. Of course, if you're creating your own compositions, and you may still be using a pencil and paper initially, but to be able to enter the score into the computer and then review it, play it back, correct it and adjust it, and then save it and print it and email it to other people would be invaluable, I would imagine. So that list that I've just left behind is my subjective, very subjective assessment of who are likely users of music notation editor programs. These three programs are, I think, certainly they will be three of the most commonly used music notation editor programs: Noteworthy Composer, MuseScore, and Sibelius First. Each one of them have very thorough and extensive tutorials and user guides. So if you're new to this field of endeavour, and you would like to make use of any one of these programs, or all three maybe. You can't go wrong with the help that's available to you online. I'll come back to this tabulation later. They're just a few attributes or properties of each of these programs. So I'll come back to this in a few minutes. If you look at if you go to noteworthycomposer.com in your address bar, this is the window that appears. Noteworthy Composer is the program I've used for many years, up until just a few weeks ago. And it is the user interface seems to be identical to me as it was 20 odd years ago. And I do think it's showing its age a little bit. It's still available for $49 US, and that is for a perpetual license. That's not a yearly charge, that's a permanent fee to obtain the program. The free version is somewhat limited in that I think it limits the number of times you can save your score to a maximum number of 10. And when you print from this free version, a banner appears across the printed page saying printed from an unregistered version of the program. The free viewer is not a notation editor. It's only a portal through which you can download and view and play Noteworthy Composer scores. And I think the other day when I clocked onto this, it was saying there are 11,375 scores available for you to view. This is the screen if you go to musescore.org, note the .org, which is a completely free program. And this is the program I was using just now for the demonstration. If you go to musescore.com, if you end up going to musescore.com, you will be invited to pay $6.99 US per month for the program called MuseScore Pro. And I think that program is identical to the free version, except that you're given access to a very large sheet music sharing service for both upload and download. And they boast that they have over 1 million scores available to gain access using MuseScore Pro. The third very commonly, I think, used music notation editor program is Sibelius. Sibelius first is the free version, but that is a somewhat degraded version of the full program. It allows you a maximum, the free version allows you a maximum of 4 staves. And I think another limitation is that you have no access to their score library. Sibelius, the mid-range offering, allows you up to 16 staves, and I think that does give you access to their score library. I believe that Sibelius costs $199 for a perpetual license. Sibelius Ultimate is the unlimited version, as you would imagine, and that costs $599 US for a full license, a full unlimited perpetual license. One quote I came across, which I think is worth repeating, in a comparison of MuseScore and Sibelius was, if you're starting to compose music, you can't go wrong with MuseScore. If and when you get to the point that you find yourself editing scores a lot, then consider Sibelius or Finale. I can't make any comment about Finale. There's not enough time anyway, and I know nothing about it. So that brings me to questions, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, thanks, John. If you'd just like to unshare your screen so that we can see the
Okay.
people on the call.
Right. I was going to bring up that window again. Is that going to interrupt what you're doing, Jim?
No, it just makes it slightly. I can see most people now. So if anyone would like to ask a question, as always, if you would raise your physical hand and wave to me, and then unmute yourself when I pull you. So who has the first question for John?
Actually, can I ask a question of Peter, please, Jim? Peter, I think you have an app for your iPhone called Play Score, not Play School, Play Score. And this app is a marvelous little device in that it allows you to scan a paper copy of a score, and the program absorbs that optical character recognition and converts it back to music. My question is to you, Peter, is Play Score also a music notation editor program?
No, it's not. As far as I know, I haven't played about with it all that much. What it does, as you rightly say, is scan sheet music and using what I suppose is optical character recognition, transfer it into a playable score. But as far as I'm aware, you cannot then change the notes or the lyrics. Do you put lyrics in? I can't remember now. However, it's amazingly accurate. It comes as an iOS. It comes as a program that you can put into your Apple computer or your Windows computer. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that I've found with it is if you have multiple staves, say you've got 5 staves on one page and only 3 staves on another page, that really throws it. But apart from that, it's amazingly accurate. I was absolutely staggered. And it's so fast. If you've got a flatbed scanner, you can scan several pages in 5 minutes and just transfer it into something that you can play. It really is wonderful. Can I just make 2 comments, if you don't mind? Like John, I used Noteworthy for a long time. I found it a very painful, slow process. And I'm very impressed, John, with the way MuseScore has improved on what Noteworthy can do in terms of the speed that you can enter things.
Yes.
There's one thing on your chart. You say no iOS version for MuseScore. That's not true. There is an iOS version of it.
Yes, but I think I did go to the App Store, and as I understand it, that paid-for version of MuseScore is not a notation editor program. It's only a viewing portal for the huge script library that's available.
Okay, yes, that may well be the case, yeah.
All right, thank you, Peter. Thank you, John. Who has a question for John? No. Paul.
Anybody wanting to have a look at these programs? I think it would be worthwhile looking at each of them. There's a Noteworthy Composer has its free version, which is somewhat limited. But both MuseScore 3 and Sibelius First are completely free. So I will be inclined to have a good look at each of the 3 programs before settling upon one of them.
Paul, you had a question there. I saw your hand up.
Thanks, thanks, guys. Yes, look, it was just a fantastic presentation, John. I belong to a very small group of male singers, and we practice every week. And one of our numbers, a very good musician, and he pumps out lots of sheet music, which he sends to us in PDF format. And I want to be able to hear it. I don't read music, much to my great regret. But so that I can play it, I use that little bit of software that Peter was talking about. And I must say, PlayScore 2, it's called. I use the free version. I simply take a photograph of it with my camera in my phone, and immediately it plays it for me. So I get an idea of what the music's going to sound like before I get to practice, which is a terrific thing.
Peter.
The one thing that John's approach has an advantage for singers is that it's possible to input the other parts into the music too. And you can then hear yourself, your own line of music compared to the other parts in the choir. And that's a very useful thing to do too.
And I think some of the programs actually allow you to nominate a voice as being the playback instrument. Voice singing ah, ah, ah all the time.
Right. Well, John, thank you very much. It's been illuminating to watch you do that demonstration. As a non-musician, I'm very impressed to see how you handled it. And I think you're due a vote of thanks for that. So,
Thank you.